Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sports and Shorts of Sorts. Ren City here, episode 17. Let's do it. As we do with every episode, Jersey mentions. I love the Jersey mentions. It's always so nostalgic for me, but this one, we don't have to get too nostalgic from the beginning. Number 17, one of the biggest stars out of any sport on the planet right now. I'm talking the guy for the Los Angeles Angels, Shohei Ohtani. Pitcher, hitter, man, the guy does it all. He is something to watch. He's going to strike you out, then go down and hit a bomb right after. It's amazing to watch. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. And the Angels are sort of kind of in contention for a wild card, so hopefully they can make it in the playoffs. This guy needs to be on the biggest stage. So if he doesn't, he's going to leave as soon as he can, right? But sticking with the diamond, we'll go to Keith Hernandez, right? He pops up in my memory mostly because, the whole Seinfeld episode and that spit scene with Newman and Kraser, and they accuse him of spitting on him, and they parody that JFK film. It's a great scene. If you've watched Seinfeld, you know what I'm talking about. But Hernandez was a great player, too. He won the NL MVP in 79, 2 World Series with the Mets in 82 and 86. His number 17's retired by the Mets. Excuse me. But one last baseballer I'd love to mention is Doc Ellis. Now you're like, Doc Ellis, who's that? That kind of rings a bell. He doesn't have the most illustrious career, but he's got a no-hitter while on acid. Did it with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah, he walked 8. He hit someone with a pitch, but it was still a no-hitter. That's impressive. No-hitters are impressive. Doing it on acid is, yeah, that's something else. But we'll go to the hardwood next, and another retired number 17. This one belongs to Havlicek. Hondo, Celtics legend, won 8 titles with the Celtics, 13-time All-Star, Finals MVP in 74. A lot of people remember, the historic Johnny Most calling the game for the Celtics when the ball gets thrown in and Havlicek tips the ball away and he goes, Havlicek stole the ball! And it's just an iconic thing in Boston. And, he's named, the Six-Man Trophy's named after Havlicek. So, he was pretty good off the bench. But one last baller to mention, Chris Mullin. He's part of the Run TMC days in Golden State with Mitch Richmond and Tim Hardaway. He made a finals run with the Pacers, but they bumped into, Shaq and the Lakers, so that didn't go well to him. But we'll jump to the gridiron. 2 quarterbacks that jump out. Stat monster Phillip Rivers, right? Never won a ring, but he was a good quarterback, doing great things. And what has he got, like 10 kids? That's pretty cool, too. And Doug Williams, right? He's Super Bowl winner with the Washington team. And 2 receivers, you got to think. Devontae Adams, loved him in Green Bay, but he's doing his thing with the Raiders. And you got Terry McLaurin with, Washington. So, one hockey player, I think of Yuri Curry with the Edmonton Oilers, 5-time champ, first Finnish player inducted to the Hall of Fame. Pretty solid player. But, yeah, that's it for the jerseys. And ending with hockey, we'll jump right to hockey. Usually I start with hoops, but a lot went down in hockey. The NHL Awards go down. Connor McDavid did his thing, Hart Trophy, Ted Lindsay Award, voted by peers. So, it's already his 3rd Hart, 4th Ted Lindsay, and he's 26 years old. Got his first Rocket Richard with his 64 goals. So, yeah, he's something else. And his 5th Art Ross. So that's for most points. So Richard's for most goals. Art Ross is for most points. All he's missing is that title until he gets that. That trophy casing gets so full, but I know he'll be wanting that one. Ugh. Norris Trophy went to Erik Karlsson with the Sharks, 3rd of his career. First with the Sharks, he'd won with Ottawa before, so good on him. And Boston had that historic regular season. They came up short in the playoffs, but Jim Montgomery won Jack Adams for best coach. Linus Ullmark won Vezina for best goalie. Patrice Bergeron won his 6th Frank J. Selk Trophy. So, yeah, they had all those trophies, just nothing to show for it. That's rough. The Calder for the best rookie went to Matty Beniers of the Seattle Kraken. their first ever draft pick by the franchise, and he had a great year. Lady Bing went to Kopitar with Kings, second time for him. And then, the Bill Masterton, that's, exemplifies perseverance and whatnot, coming back to hockey. You got Chris Letang, you can't look anywhere else. The man had a fucking stroke. And he came back his second stroke. Like, the fact he's even playing is fucking mind-boggling. Who comes back from a stroke twice? I mean, good on him, but you also got to think your health a bit there too. But gotta give him his flowers. Well done. And following the awards, they had the draft, and shocker, Connor Bedard went number 1 to the Blackhawks. But there was kind of a shocker too. A lot of people thought, hey, Fantilli's going second, but the Ducks went with Leo Carlsson. So that opened the door for Fantilli to go to Columbus. That should be interesting. My childhood team, the Philadelphia Flyers, they're rebuilding, but they went with a risky pick, going with Mishkov. Mishkov, he's still under contract in the KHL for another 3 years, so we don't know how long he'll be getting out of there. Some people are saying he's the next Ovechkin. Hyperbole or not, that's gotta like hearing that. And the NHL, oh my goodness, there were so many moves. It was kind of hard to keep track, Big changes, and here, of course, they cover all Maple Leaf stuff all the time. And, we're going to have a Domi again in Toronto, Max Domi coming to Toronto. They got Tyler Bertuzzi and Ryan Reeves, but they're bringing him in because a lot's leaving, right? Luke Schen's gone, Ryan O'Reilly, they both joined the Predators. Michael Bunting went to the Hurricanes, Dubas goes to Pittsburgh. And then, Carolina snake, Dmitry Orlov from Boston. Duchesne signs with the Stars. Longtime Jet, Blake Wheeler, lands in New York, become a Ranger. Alex Killorn quacks his way to Anaheim. And the Red Wings signed JT Compher from the Avs, and Florida traded. Anthony Duclair was part of this great run they had to the finals. They ship him off to San Jose, so... yeah, it must be tough in the NHL to get a jersey with a name on it that, he's going to stay there a while. But going from the rink to the hardwood, huge news for Team Canada. Nick Nurse, he's done with Canada altogether. He left Toronto. Well, he was fired. He's off to Philadelphia, and I guess he was done with the Canadian national team as he stepped down from that. Sacramento Kings assistant Jordy Fernandez will take over the role, and this is a big time for Canada basketball. Some are saying the most talented team we've had. So I'm hoping he can do his thing and help get Canada in the Olympics. That's really what it's about. And I want to cheer Canada on in the Olympics for male basketball. I don't know. Am I asking for too much? But just like hockey, man, the off-season moves in the NBA, it's like, what is going on? Draymond opted out. You think he's leaving, only to be like, just kidding. He's re-signing. But Fred VanVleet did leave Toronto. He's gone. He's heading to Houston to play with the Rockets with Dylan Brooks and Suns Jock Landale. He's leaving. But Dylan Brooks, everyone said, oh, he's a bum in Memphis. He's the reason they lost. But he's getting rewarded. He's going to Houston. I think he'll help that team. Give him some grit as long as he doesn't go to the next level. There's a fine line. He doesn't want to be a habitual line stepper. But Kyrie, he re-signed with Dallas. Eric Gordon took a pay cut, and he's going to Phoenix to join that super team on the rise. Jeremy Grant signed a pretty big deal to stay with Portland. And that last one caused a little bit of a snowball effect, because after the Grant signing, Damian Lillard formally requests a trade out of Portland. The loyal Lillard has said he wanted to win a championship there, but, with the drafting of Scoot Henderson, not moving him for assets, and I guess the signing of Grant was just the last straw, because he's demanded a trade. He said Miami specifically might be tough to maneuver, because any of the players Portland will want from Miami would kind of ruin their chances of competing still, if you know what I mean. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. We'll see what the Trailblazers fans think of their, long-time lover Lillard. Alliteration there, Lilyhammer. But anyway, Tyrese Halliburton, there were some big extensions. Tyrese Halliburton sticking in Indy with a huge deal. Desmond Bain signed a huge contract. And Kyle Kuzma staying with the Warriors with a huge extension. Sabonis, huge extension with the Kings. LaMelo Ball, huge extension with the Hornets. Everybody's getting that extension. And I mentioned the Miami Heat and their title run. They kind of got plucked a bit. That's the thing with having good undrafted players on, not long-term contracts. When they outperform what they're priced at, people are going to pick them up, and that's kind of what happened, right? Max Strus signed and trade. He's going to Cleveland. Victor Oladipo missed that run. He was injured, but he's off to Oklahoma. Gabe Vincent was signed up by the Lakers. Cody Zeller had a good show, and he's been picked up by the Pelicans. So many moves to name, like I'm saying, but I'll just highlight a few underrated ones, I think. Like, the Raptors had Van Vliet go, and they replaced him with Dennis Schroeder. Bit of a different type of point guard, but I still think a solid pickup. But the underrated ones for the Raptors thus far, I think, were Jakob Poeltl re-signing. I think he's underrated. Great passer. He plays defense. He's a guy that can get 20 without any plays called for him. Those are good players to have. And Jalen McDaniels, oh man, the guy, he's a great defender, good 3-and-D guy. He's got length, like everyone on the Raptors. He's got length, but I think he's a defensive stud. We'll see what he can do in TO. People might say he may make OG expendable, but we'll see. I like OG. I don't want them to get rid of him, but everybody's got to get, their money. They've earned it. They want those big contracts, let them go. That's kind of what happened with Bruce Brown, right? Tough loss for the Nuggets. He was an integral part of that championship team, and he's going to Indiana to join the Pacers, who also picked up Obi Toppin in a trade with the Knicks. Pacers quietly 1-12 look fucking pretty solid. They might make some noise next year if they can stay healthy. That's the thing. The Knicks, they traded Toppin, but they kind of replaced him, bringing in Dante DiVincenzo. So you got the three players from the Villanova championship team. You got Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, all with the Knicks. So that's kind of cool. And there's two European signings that are really pumping me up. You got reigning EuroLeague MVP Sasha Vezenkov. I watched some EuroLeague highlights. He's a lefty. He's a baller. He's coming to the Kings, which are doing great. Him and Sabonis is a pretty good 1-2 punch. And Vasil Misic coming to the Thunder. He's been itching to come over for a bit. They've wanted him, and the Thunder are in that place. They had that playing loss, but they have that right youth talent mixture, bringing someone in like him, having Chet Holmgren come back from injury. Man, I'm already pumped for the season, and it's so far away. But we'll go to something that's actually on Major League Baseball, right? And on Wednesday, we had one of the biggest things to happen in baseball at one of the emptiest venues in baseball. The Oakland Athletics, the worst team in the league, hosted the Yankees, and, history was made in front of 12,000 plus. Domingo Germán threw out the first perfect game since 2012. Score was very one-sided, but you could feel the uneasiness in the stadium, right? Like the tension of getting that. It's only the 24th time it's happened. It's the fourth by a Yankee, but, give him his kudos. People are saying, oh, should it count? It was against the worst team. It's still fucking hard to do. It's only happened 24 times. Praise the man, damn it. And the Blue Jays, they had an eventful series against the Giants early in the week, Jays got skunked by the Giants first game. Kevin Gausman reached 1,500 strikeouts in the game for his career, so that was the one highlight. And the Jays bounced back, winning the next two off a really nice start by Trevor Richards and a gem by Chris Bassett, and the batters did what they needed to in that series, which was nice because they didn't really show up for the next series. The Jays hosted the Red Sox, and they've struggled against the Red Sox all year. And, Berrios was going on the mound, and you're like, all right, they got a chance going up against James Paxton, but Paxton looked like the stud. It was a duel until the fifth, and then once Turner got a bomb off Berrios, it kind of just swung the other way. And, the Jays lost the first one, and, they thought in the second game things would go well. Vladdy came up, had a nice hit in the bottom of the ninth. You're like, oh, shit, Springer scores. Bichette's running, he's kind of hesitating, giving him one of those herky-jerky runs, easily tagged out at home, and you're like, what? That's how the game ends? And they're like, third base coach even telling him to stop. They're checking it. He kind of did a half-ass whoa, and like Bichette's head was down. It was disaster. What a lame way to end in front of the Canada Day crowd and the Toronto Red Jays, I guess. But yeah, it was brutal. So you're like, oh, maybe they won't get a sweep. They'll take the third one, and it was a back and forth game. And then ninth inning, Verdugo. I always mess his name up, but he smashed one. Ninth inning, they win 5-4. Jays are now 7-20 against the AL East. They're only 2 games above the Red Sox for the basement of that damn tough division, but luckily they're leaving the division for a bit. They're going to Chicago for a series against the White Sox. So they'll probably win, It's not an AL East team, so they'll probably take at least 2 out of 3, hopefully. But we'll mention something about the Jays pitching. Alec Manoah went down to the minors, and that first game, 11 runs over 2 2/3 innings, a rookie-level Florida Complex League game. Everyone's like, oh my God. He's bounced back since that first start a bit, kind of looking like his regular self, but that first game, people are like, really? Salt in the wound. Oof. But the All-Star announcements were made, right? So we have, of course, Shohei Ohtani, right? He's in the game. His teammate Mike Trout will be joining him. 4 Texas Rangers in the game. They've been having a great year. And you got Jonah Heim, Marcus Semien, Josh Jung, Corey Seager. And the Jays have 4 players in the Classic. None starting, but you have Gossman, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero Jr., and Whit Merrifield. He's had a pretty good year, obviously, making the All-Star game. In the NL, you have 3 Dodgers and 3 Braves. You have Freeman, Betts, and J.D. Martinez, and you have Sean Murphy, Orlando Arcia, and Ronald Acuna Jr. So it's always fun to watch the All-Star game. And yeah, I don't know. Out of all the All-Star games, out of the 4 big sports, I'd say baseball's is up there because with theirs, it's kind of hard not to try. Pitches are the same. You got to hit the same. In the NFL, it's basically... yeah, it's not physical at all. Hockey has become a scoring fest, and basketball. You can't find defense in that beat. But anyway, that's another day, another dollar. We'll jump to the footy world, and you're like, I thought all the leagues were done. Well, this is Canadian footy, and it's in trouble, y'all. Women's team is one of the best in the world. We have the Women's World Cup coming up. It's July now, in this month, and men's team coming off her first World Cup appearance since '86, pre-Ren City. But something is rotten in the state of Canada. There is trouble afoot. General Secretary Jason DeVos saying they're exploring the idea of bankruptcy. Not usually a good thing to hear. I do declare bankruptcy, but there are still discussions to be had on what the best route to go is, if that's something to do. But basically, there's enough revenue coming in to run all the programs. The budget, the crisis is real, I guess. There's not enough in the budget for competitive games in September and October. These are tune-up games, and you're like, we can't even fund them? I don't know. They're going to have a bake sale? I don't know. But we'll segue from that. Trouble off the field, trouble on the field. The CONCACAF Gold Cup's going on. Like I said, these tournaments just keep rolling and rolling. But Guadeloupe, they came to Toronto to see what's up, and Guadeloupe looked way better. In the 22nd minute, they went ahead, and you're going to halftime going, what the fuck is happening? Quickly in the second half, Canada tied it up. You're like, okay. And then the 70th minute, we went ahead. Phew, finally. We shouldn't be losing this game, but stoppage time, we give up a penalty, or not a penalty, I apologize, a free kick in a dangerous position. Guadeloupe comes up, the kick in the box, and a Guadalupe fiasco occurs. Canada has an own goal, game is tied. It's a team that's not even a member of FIFA. It's pretty devastating. I'm not trying to shit on the Guadeloupe team, but man, Canada's got to get that one. But you know what? They had a redemption game Saturday. It's Canada Day, right? We got Guatemala. This is a game. This is ours. We got to take it. Well, that's a hard no, bud. Canada drew again. What is going on? Like, the play on the field, the economic turmoil off the field, like the turmoil in Canada in general financially. Like, what the fuck is happening? Lots of uncertainty, concerns galore. What's happening next? Where's Canada football going? Like, where the fuck is Canada going? I don't know. We've heard our leaders say the budget will balance itself. I don't think that's happened. I don't think that's happening for our soccer, but we shall see. And watch, the women are going to have a great World Cup. I know they will, and hopefully that can overshadow this a bit while the people work behind the scenes to rectify all this fucking shit show. But anyway, we'll end soccer with a few transfer notes. Tottenham, they joined in on the poaching of Leicester City as they are relegated. James Maddison, good player. He's going to Tottenham. I think that's a great pickup for them. Aston Villa picked up Pau Torres from Villarreal. 26-year-old Spanish born. He was part of Emery's top targets this summer. He played for Emery at Villarreal. You know, Emery knows what he's all about. I don't think he'll have any issue transitioning from La Liga to EPL. Massive upgrade. And they also poached from Leicester City Yuri Tielemans will be joining as well. Wow, that Belgian name I just butchered, but. And it's looking like West Ham accepted a bid finally. It hasn't been official, but Arsenal have been looking to pluck him up, and he'll become a Gooner. He was a great captain for West Ham. I'll always cheer for Declan Rice. But Saudi League has continued to bolster their talent pool. Benzema, N'Golo Kante, Ruben Neves, and Kalidou Koulibaly have already been signed. Edward Mendy from Chelsea is gone as well. I don't know why they're keeping Kepa over him, but hey, each their own. There's talks, Firmino, he's already leaving Liverpool. There's talks he'll be going as well. There's a verbal agreement as of this recording, but Saudi League, they're getting some players, real good ones, so that should increase, the gameplay over there. So good on them, I guess. That depends what you think of where the money comes from, but that's a whole nother story. I'll jump into the WNBA real quick. There were some juicy matchups. Monday, you had two South Carolina alums going up against each other. Asia Wilson of the defending Aces going up against Aaliyah Boston. And it was a back and forth with the Aces winning, as they always seem to do. But, I'm looking forward to that rivalry going forward. And you had the Liberty, who seemed to have kind of got their strike taken, or they kind of seemed to have got their stride. And they were taking on the Sun. Sun have been leading the East, and it was a balanced attack going back and forth. The Liberty won. Alyssa Thomas had another triple-double. I was still surprised she wasn't an all-star starter. I thought Brittany Griner would have been left off, but I know the story's better for her to be on. But, yeah, another game that went on that night was the Dallas Wings, who took on Griner, who I just shit on there. But, that triple-headed monster with the Wings of Bonawale, Sabale, and Howard. They're something else. Like I said, this Dallas team, I love watching them play. They're one of my favorites to watch in the league. And Minnesota had won a close one against the Storm with Nafisa Collier going for 33 and 10. Like, all these names I'm ripping off, you guys might not know them, but the talent there's so many good players. And, like, the matches continued throughout the week. Sometimes the scoreboards didn't reflect the anticipated matches, but you're like, oh, Liberty have been rolling. Aces have only lost one game. And, yeah, the Aces still have only lost one game. They beat the shit out of Liberty. But there'll be another day. And that same night, like, Brittany Griner going up against Aaliyah Boston, number one pick, who I had highlighted earlier. And I was, like, shitting on Brittany Griner. But then she's like, fuck you already. She dominated the youngster, looking like, okay, maybe she should start the All-Star game. Suck a lemon, Rennie. But the best game of that night was the Seattle Storm with Jewel Lloyd. She is baller, right? Went over 40 points. It was an overtime game where, name I mentioned again, Nafisa Collier. She's something else for the Lynx. Like, it was awesome on the weekend. There were some other games. They were kind of one-sided. The best one was between the Sky and the Indiana Fever, with Courtney Williams was hitting some late shots. She had a career high. Her and Marina Mabry are a good 1-2 behind Kalia Copper. It's just, like I said, look at all these names. They announced the All-Star reserves. Good group. Sabrina Ionescu of Warner Jersey on this show. Kelsey Plum, Elena Deladon. Of course, Alyssa Thomas, who I mentioned. Should have been started. She's in the game at least, so that's good. July 15th in Vegas, WNBA All-Star Game, so awesome. And they always have that match, right? The big foursome of golf where they had this year's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson of the Golden State Warriors going up against Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. It was shithousery, right? That's what golf with buddies is usually all about. So good shots, bad putts. They are just like us, but it was very one-sided. The football fellas took down the baller bros pretty easily. With all that banter going on, there was a cool announcement with TNT legend Ernie Johnson, good buddy Charles Barkley, and part of the Inside the NBA crew. Surprised him that Ernie Johnson has been inducted into the Sports Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Congrats to EJ. He's a hero of mine. I've always liked talking about sports. Clearly, I'm doing this for fun, and I'm loving it. And yeah, he's a big reason behind it. He does great things, and he really is the heart and soul of that NBA crew team. Crew team. That's a new one, but that NBA crew. So, congrats, Ernie. We returned to some auto racing this week. Before the Austrian Grand Prix happened, there was some pretty sad news in Belgium. I hope I got his name right here. Delano Van Hoff, 18-year-old, was participating in the Formula Regional European Championship. And yeah, an accident on the track in Spa took his life. This is the same track where Anton Huber passed away in 2019. This was highlighted on that Netflix show, Drive to Survive. Such a sad story. This is two young men just life taken away in the span of 40 years. It's pretty messed up and reminds you, like, auto racing is pretty legit. You could lose your life any race. But whew, that Austrian GP did still go down on Sunday, and they had the sprint Saturday. After hearing those events, they still had the sprint, and Max Verstappen won. But Sunday, nothing different. Broken record here. Max Verstappen won. It's his 5th in a row. He had his streak at 249 consecutive laps led broken when he had to change tires. Charles Leclerc ripped ahead of him, only to have Max quickly pass him later. It was dominance again. Max just doing his thing. He got first, obviously. Leclerc got second, and his teammate Perez got third. Perez had a pretty good race. He started 15th, and you're like, what is with him in qualifying? Why is he doing this? But 3 of his lap times were erased because of track limits of him leaving the track. And that would become a theme. During the race, Lando was behind Lewis, and he's telling his team, like, he's going off the track nonstop. And they're like, well, just let us know each time. And he's like, I can't because I'd be talking the whole race. So it was a bunch of shit talking. But then, boom, Lewis got a penalty. Then the FIA was like Oprah Winfrey back in the day giving out prizes. Like, boom, Tsunoda penalty, Sainz penalty, Alex Albon penalty, Pierre Gasly, Logan Sargent, Kevin Magnussen. All these people are getting track penalties. Like, what in the fuck? Like, Aston Martin's already launched a protest into, like, okay, if there's this many people, something's happening, right? But there were also penalties given out to Esteban Ocon and Nick DeVries for, incidents involving other drivers. So when all's said and done, like, Hamilton and Sainz had 10 seconds in penalties. Tsunoda had a bunch of penalties. Ocon ended up with 30 seconds. Bunch of talking points, which I guess takes away from the dominant run again from Max Verstappen. And as the popularity grows of F1, they have a bit of a problem as, it's a one-bull race right now. The Red Bull driver, Verstappen, is just way ahead of everyone, and no one can catch him. And that, it's good for him, but it doesn't make for great viewing, At least, like I said, there's enough shit going on that, can kind of take away from that, but wow. And NASCAR, we had the Grand Park 220. This was an interesting one because it was a street race. Yeah. First time in NASCAR we're doing this. And Jeff Gluck, he had an interesting take in the Athletic article. He was saying, in a way to attract new viewers, this may be the most expensive commercial in NASCAR history, but some people weren't liking it. Chicagoans weren't digging it, but it looked really cool. And, like, this is a new style of race, and I guess we needed a new winner. Shane Van Gisbergen. You know him, right? New Zealand-born driver, 3-time Supercars champion in Australia. First NASCAR Series race. He won the whole damn thing. Took the lead with 5 laps to go and became the first person to win their first race since 1963. Like, how cool is that? Give your little clap to him. What a cool weekend for that guy. Who's taking the first race? Oh, a New Zealander. Perfect. Just sounds classic NASCAR. That's awesome. Excitement. Got me talking about it again. Got me raising my excitement voice. But speaking of my excitement voice, Wimbledon, one of my favorite tournaments. Starting third Grand Slam of the year. It's beautiful. From the train ride up to the walk to the grounds. I enjoyed every part of it. Except I had like heat stroke, I feel. I was crawling around at the end of the day. I was lobstered, super lobstered. And I was shivering, vomiting. I fought the sun, and the sun won. But yeah, boom. There's my cue card. Shabam! And my little sticker. You cued it, Wimbledon. It was a goddamn long wait, I tell ya. But yeah, it was a good time. Enjoyed Wimbledon tremendously, other than, as I said, the sun whooping my ass, but that's what happens sometimes. But anyway, with it starting up, let's do my predictions. Hopefully they go better than my goddamn French Open ones. But Alcaraz is still number one in the world, and he's won a grass tournament recently, but Novak Djokovic has to be the favorite. You know, and one of my heroes, Kornheiser, said Alcaraz won a grass tournament, but Wimbledon isn't a grass tournament. It is the grass tournament. And man, the Serbian has played like shampoo. He's been head and shoulders above the competition in Grand Slam play. He's won the Australian. He's won the French this year. He's looking to get the calendar slam. It's a tough draw. Everybody will be itching to see Alcaraz have a rematch with Joker. You know, Alcaraz pulled out with an injury in the French, but that's everyone's pick. I'm hoping for a big surprise comeback tournament by Milos Raonic. He plays good at Wimbledon. I'm hoping he has a good run. On the women's side, I think everyone just wants to see that number one, number two in the final. Iga Swiatek is coming off her French Open win and, you know, looking to take her stranglehold on the women's division. And the number two seed, Aryna Sabalenka, she won the Australian Open. So thinking one of those two will be raising the hardware in London. Quick mention in the golf world, the Rocket Mortgage Classic at the Detroit Golf Club came down to a three-player playoff between Ricky Fowler, Canadian Adam Hadwin, and Colin Morikawa. Ricky was clutch, did well, earned his first victory in 4 years, outdueling the other two, so congrats to Ricky Fowler. Big gap between wins there. And some bummer news in the ESPN world, I guess, you know. Happy long weekend to some of your favorite TV folk. Mouse is cleaning house. 20 commentators-ish were laid off. Disney let go of some good ones, and I'm wondering where they'll go next. NBA coverage won't be the same. It'll be missing Jeff Van Gundy covering games. Jalen Rose doing analysis. They're both gone. NFL coverage, Susie Colbert. She's been a staple on there for 27 years, so tough to see her go. I wonder what she's got next. Steve Young, he always gives great insight on the QB position, a regular guest on our PTI. He was let go. He was part of our episode 8 segment, and he's gone. Yeah, Max Kellerman. What a slow decline of Max Kellerman. Going head-to-head with Stephen A. on their highly rated show to getting his own show with Keyshawn Johnson, who was also let go, by the way, to get his walking papers. So it's a cruel business for sure. Pat McAfee's been getting some flack because ESPN brought a Brinks truck up to him to get his show brought to ESPN, and people were like, "Come on, Pat, why are you taking that?" Man, you can't hate this guy for taking money to move to the show. Well, he didn't decide to let all these people go, but it's a bummer. You never want to see people lose their jobs. But hey, maybe they want to come on this show, Sports and Shorts of Sorts. We'll welcome you. But yeah, brutal. But we'll end that down note in the sports world to jump to a high note, right? Long weekend for some. Happy Canada Day to everyone out there. Independence Day to any Americans or fans of 1996 cinema. If you don't like what Canada Day is about, I understand. Totally get it. I'm not forcing shit on no one. If you don't want to celebrate, don't. I totally understand. But I had a great weekend. Had some East Indian lunch with my mom. Shout out to Dar Bar in Warman. It was delish. Had some relaxing time with the wife. Took in some time watching the American Gladiators documentary. We watched the 2-part ESPN 30 for 30 ones. And then we've been watching the Netflix ones. It's kind of cool seeing the difference in the two and why there are two. You're like, okay, I see what's up. I recommend it. Gotta check it out. American Gladiators were so cool back in the day, and this show shows a whole different side. But yeah, I also got to do some fishing. Didn't catch anything, but always good to catch up with some friends, take in the sun. It was nice, and yeah, took in some holiday fireworks with the wife and a buddy. To check them out. It's always cool to see fireworks, right? But had volleyball. That went awesome for one game. Another game, the other team didn't show up. It is a long weekend. It does happen. Felt weird that we were in town. Usually on a long weekend, we're gone. But sticking with Canada Day stories, or shorts, as you would. One that jumps out is the one in 2005. It also happened to be the centennial year for the province of Saskatchewan. There were supposed to be some pretty good fireworks at Diefenbaker Park, like, what a perfect opportunity to do mushrooms. So we had a designated driver, thinking ahead. We had some other friends who were meeting us there. So many people in this crowded area. You were outdoors, but the mushrooms made you feel very claustrophobic. Mushrooms in a very public place is an experience in itself. The fireworks are pretty cool. I've been lucky to witness fireworks all over the world, some don't measure up, but it's always cool to see them. That was pretty trippy, and hearing people react to it was probably the more trippier part. And had a test sent to us to determine what was real or not in the shape of a deer, straight up real deer running through the crowd like a pinball. And it was real. Other people reacted. We did fact check that it was a deer. So yeah, and I don't know. And things were clearing up, and we wanted to get to the car first. So I don't know, as you tend to do on mushrooms sometimes, you just running, approach a fence. I can't climb worth shit. Look at me. I get up, fucking fall a bit, rip my shirt, find a lower fence to get over, make it work. We get in the vehicle, and trying to get out of this place. There's so many fucking people, and you're just taking its time. You're sitting in the car, kind of fidgeting because you're like psychopsilocybin. So you're eventually like, I need air. You open the door and you look. And there were so many cars for the eye to see. And I was just standing there, spinning on the spot. I can only imagine what people in their cars thought. Just some monster gets out of his car and starts pirouetting on the spot. So if you were there that night and saw that, well, now you kind of know why. So Jeff leapt back in the car. We were listening to System of a Down all night. Mesmerized came out, and that was going on. We left that area, went to go get some food. Guess our driver was hungry, probably from dealing with us. He gets there. I don't know what was going on. Conversations were weird, but there was like an argument. He's honking, yelling. I get out of the car again, start freaking out outside the car again, leap back into the car, and that's mostly how the night went on a bit. I was tripping for a while. We drove around. Mushrooms can be exhausting. I'm finally like, I need to go to bed. Get home, and I'm laying in bed, and all I hear is like, that song Radio Video by System of a Down. It goes, la 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 la, la la la, la la la. It's doing that, and like, all I can see are people catching fire in my head, and I'm like, what the fuck? I had to have a few bowls just to go to sleep that night. I was like, this is fucked. Well, yeah, that was that was a wild Canada Day, that one. We'll jump to another Canada Day short. This one, less hallucinogenic. This one goes to Murray Point, Emma Lake. Boom, boom. Very booze-filled weekend. Beers, beef, shenanigans, the whole 9 little yards. I remember at one point we had to move a bunch of us, so like 10, maybe 11 of us jump in a pickup truck, and we all move to the next part. In hindsight, I'm like, man, that was fucked up. What if we rolled or something? But early 2000s, I guess that's what was up. More fireworks, as Canada Day weekends are, and we were out walking about because people just like lighting fireworks, right? Nothing beats walking around the lake, having a drink, a few tokes, doing your thing, hanging out. And yeah, my belly was like, oh boy. Luckily, my buddy had toilet paper with him. He always has a leaky nose, skier's nose, whatever you call it, always a runny nose. I'm like, bro, you gotta hook me up. Snuck off, went. I'm like, oh, the beach, no one's around. Went down to do my disgusting thing like some sick animal I am. And then, yeah, someone just started lighting off fireworks. So each time the firework lit up, you could see me squatted on some kind of beach. Probably part of some We Believe documentary, I saw the Sasquatch. I saw him shitting on the beach years ago. But Yeah, that was that. And I guess a little shit segue there. I mentioned I was fishing this weekend. Hopefully this isn't too much TMI, but again, had too much coffee before going to fish for some goddamn reason, and had to go right by the bush again. I could hear goats in the distance mocking me, "Meh, you shitty shitter," meh. And I was like, oh, I always feel like such a piece of shit. And luckily, I did that like 5 or 6, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes after that happened. A blue van pulled up and some chick went canoeing. I'm so glad she didn't have to see that and ruin her whole canoe trip. But lastly, I'll say nothing Canada Day is nothing without going to Toad's Lake, Nothing but shithousery there, from bad decisions to golf games, my wife cutting her leg on a ladder, needing a tetanus shot after, to cruising to Kelvington for some goddamn good chicken. You never know what it's like to be an Okie from karaoke. And I'm not even a country music fan, but Alan Jackson, I think of him different since these late trips, I never knew how much I'd know about a Chattahoochee, even though it gets hotter than a hoochie coochie. But if you've met my man Toad, the man's a walking story maker. We'll try to get him on the show, but we might have to shackle him just to rein him in. But love you, bud. We'll get you on here. But man, thanks for coming along. Long weekend. It's been a fun one. Reminiscing, talking about this weekend. Hope you all have had a great goddamn weekend, and thanks for coming along. Take care, everyone. Ren City out.